Okay, I see it is 11 o'clock, so we can definitely kick off. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. I hope you've had a great week this week. We're approaching mid-May quite soon. And yeah, I just hope that you had a really good week and looking forward to the weekend. And thank you for joining me for this webinar titled What's New in Autodesk Infraworks, Civil 3D and ReCap Pro 2022. There's some really cool features and you're going to see them in action in just a bit. This webinar is presented by myself. I am Shuaib Yunus. I am the BIM technical specialist for civil infrastructure and mining here at Baker Baines in South Africa. I am a qualified civil engineer as well as holding a BTech degree in civil. In conjunction with that, I have been in consulting, still am, so I am a civil consultant, Autodesk certified instructor, as well as a champion of BIM for civil infrastructure, especially here in Africa. In my spare time, or when I get a gap, I normally enjoy going to the beach, deep sea fishing, a bit of powerlifting and archery. I think the last two has gone very lazy on my part, but hopefully we'll get back into it as soon as possible. By the way, I'm not sure if any of you had noticed, but Autodesk University proposals were open and now they are closed. And I had submitted 2 sessions. So this year is quite cool where they've incorporated a voting type of scenario where users can actually vote for the sessions that they want to see. And I'm really counting on you guys to actually give me a thumbs up. It's really simple. What I will do quickly is I will drop the links into the chat box and I will explain it from there. So just give me 1 second. Here we go. It's there in the chat box as we speak. All right, so let's get back in here. So how does this work? Or if you're not familiar with Autodesk University, it's a global event. Normally it's held like in Las Vegas or some really cool location where users from all over the world, be it in civil, architectural, mechanical, construction, submit classes or industry talks or stuff like that. And depending on the grade of your work, as well as the awesomeness of your topic, if I could be quite simple, they would select you. And last year I had the real good privilege of representing South Africa as well as Africa for AU. So I'm really looking forward to trying and having that privilege again. So I would really appreciate if you guys could vote for me. It's like I said, it's very simple. As you see on the screen, when you click those links, all you got to do is hit the like button. I recommend. If it asks you to sign in, all you've got to do is sign in with your Autodesk ID. If you don't have one, you can create one. It's free. It's just like a sign in that you would need, for example, Gmail or Google or something like that. So I've got 2 sessions that I've submitted. One is scan to BIM for roads, from as-built capture to visualization. It's going to be really cool, especially if you are in the roads industry, whether you're a draftsman, whether you're an engineer, whether you're a contractor, whether you're a developer. This is going to be really cool to watch. And if you're more in the process plant or plant industry, I've also did one scan to BIM for plant. So you could like both. If you know someone that's going to benefit from it, share it with them as well. And yeah, it's free learning. So really looking forward to having your votes and also seeing you there for this awesome event. There's way more classes that you can select. And yeah, hopefully mine will be one of them. Okay, so that's enough about AU. I'm sure you guys will handle it on your time. In terms of us as Baker Baines, we actually do specialize in these 4 segments, being business process improvement consulting, survey design, hardware consultancy, design software, as well as blended learning. If we had to put that into logos, Scan to BIM services, we partner with Topcon and Leica. Topcon being for the civil infrastructure space on construction sites and mining, Leica being for interiors. We also partner with IDAS, ClearEdge 3D. Those 2 technologies, you should have seen them in my previous webinars, IDAS is a must if you're a civil design professional, especially if you're working with pipe networks. So water, sewer, storm water, bulk water, IDAS is your go-to tool. ClearEdge 3D, if you're working with point clouds and you want to do a model, definitely it is the point cloud geometry extraction technology that automates the creation of a Revit model. So definitely really cool technologies that we invest in and we support. We're also a Autodesk Service Provider Select as well as a Services Marketplace provider. We also related BBBE Level 1, and we boast also classroom as well as virtual training, especially in the time that we are. You are currently doing things mostly virtually. Okay, so that's what we talk about when we say CAD learning. CAD learning is the virtual tool that we will also use. It's an online platform with over about 50 Autodesk titles. That can be Civil 3D, AutoCAD, Inventor, Infraworks, Map 3D, Vehicle Tracking, Robot. I mean, there's a lot of titles that are on there that you can go and learn. Step-by-step tutorials, pre-recorded videos, and you can also test yourself. So if you want more info on that or you would like a trial, I'll have my email address at the end of the webinar. Drop me a mail and we can take it from there. All right, so quick intro, quick little bit about AU. Now let's jump into today's session where we're going to look exactly what's the latest, coolest features and elements included in Infraworks, Civil 3D, and ReCap Pro 2022. And then we're going to conclude. At the end, I will take questions. So if anything does pop into your mind as I'm presenting, please drop it into the chat box and I will get to it at the end of the webinar. Okay, so let's get into Autodesk Infraworks. It's a conceptual design software. If you haven't used it before or it's quite new to you, Infraworks is used for conceptual design and very, very high visualization capabilities. It is an amazing software, quite easy to learn, and when you get the hang of the workflows that you would apply to it, you could actually reflect your detailed or final design intent linked to a highly visual 3D platform. It's a really, really amazing product, and it's integrating with a lot of key software, for example, Civil 3D, Revit, as well as now Esri on the GIS or ArcGIS online platform. So we can model existing conditions that represent the build as well as the natural environment. So that's my quick summarized version of what it is. Again, if you don't know what it is, you could drop me an email at the end of the webinar, or you could just pop it in Google and you would see what an amazing product this is. Okay, so let's look at what is new. First of all, there has been a really, really awesome enhancement to the model builder in terms of the UI or the user interface. It's much more sharper, it's much more crisp. It's got up that 4K feel that you would normally have. So if you're one of the lucky ones that has a really awesome LED monitor or display, or maybe a 4K screen, you would actually appreciate this. It looks really amazing. So what we're talking about is the actual interface itself. Like when you click onto it, how much more better does it work? How much more sharper, crisper, more vivid? The UI has become really, really great. Let me give you a quick sample of the model builder as well as its enhancements. So let's look here. Okay, just give it a second. So as you can see here, this is the model builder that we're talking about, where you would normally just enter your address of your site, you would create the site extent as per polygon or view, and of course you would give it a name. You should have seen this on my many webinars before, as well as you would need to assign a coordinate system. So here in South Africa, our coordinate systems are there, so it's quite cool, and we can geolocate our model accordingly. And once it has been rendered in the cloud, you would get an email address, and this is the result. Now, look how crisp and neat, or if I could use the word clean, this model looks based on the new UI enhancement. It looks quite fresh in my opinion, and yeah, they just made it that much more visually appeasing. It's really, really cool to see. The next thing is when it comes to bridges. So if you're a structural engineer and you specialize into bridge design and modeling, this is definitely something you would really enjoy. Previously, we had a lot of requests in terms of the girder. How can we model it if you have much more complex structures? Well, now you can, and you would see that the workflow that I actually promote, as well as Autodesk, is the one using Inventor. So it's the Inventor to Infraworks to Revit to Civil 3D workflow. Just a small inside scoop. My upcoming webinars are going to be covering it in much more detail, much more slower. I have done it before, but the users said that I should probably just slow down a tad bit. So I'm going to be including roads, bridges, as well as tunnels. So please keep an eye out on my LinkedIn as well as our Baker Bates pages. You're going to definitely get the links for that. But as you can see here on the screen, if you're not familiar with what's going on the left-hand side here, this cross section is actually done and modeled in Inventor. So is this 3D here, and we can actually create a toggle. So you can see here, it's actually cut out, and in Infraworks, we can actually toggle it on and off, right? If you're still confused, let me show you in a video. Okay, so full span complex 3D bridge girders. So here we are in Infraworks, where we can see the model that we have, really decent sized bridge, I would say. And already off the bat, you can see how nice the UI looks. Okay. Now, when we go and click on the girders, we can normally have the asset card that pops up on the right-hand side. And this is where we can add more flexibility to the cross-section elements in Inventor. Remember, you have to add the parameters when you're doing the dimensions as per the Infraworks help file. That will help you quite a bit. So you can see we're adding much more complex features, and we've created like a cutout end at each end of this span. So how can we actually incorporate that? As you can see here, we're creating parameters, very simple, straightforward to understand. And this is when we are importing it into Infraworks. Now, once we do that, it now becomes a part of our library as usual, and we can go and select. As you can see, the left and right girders have updated to our design, and this is what I mean by the toggle. So because it is a data-driven design, we could switch it off by using a toggle, and I mean, instead of deleting the entire girder or element, rather edit it using parametric modeling so you could use it for multiple optioneering. And just by right-clicking it, we can apply it to the entire bridge. So a lot of time saving there, much more streamlined, much more intelligent and automated design or parametric design showcased here. Really, really cool feature. The next one is also a very, very nice one. In my opinion, I think it's one of my favorites, especially when it comes to the active decorations, right? And also, if you are into landscape architecture, they've added some pretty cool vegetation that you can actually add onto your site and make it that more visually realistic. Getting very tongue-tied again Friday, but anyway. So what I mean by that is this, okay? Before, when we used Infraworks, we normally attached, or let's say, for example, we inserted a retaining wall in the center, or a barrier, like you can see on your screen right here. And when we added it along a component, we had to wait until it regenerated, and if it was orientated or facing the wrong direction, we had to enter the angle again, and then wait for it to regenerate, and then see if it was correct. It took a lot of time, especially if you had quite a long roadway or quite a huge model, and it could become very frustrating. Now what they've done is it's quite instant, which is really, really cool. It doesn't require that the model be regenerated, as well as the vegetation is also quite nice, making it much more realistic. So now that you have my description, let's go and have a look at the actual demonstration. Okay, so as you can see here, we've got quite a hilly terrain. Let's just fly through. And here we are, we have our road designed. Now, when we normally do place the decoration, as you can see, it already highlights it so well. And just by clicking, you can see it's inserting those barriers. Now, before you had to wait for each one to generate, and this is just being done in front of you, like instantly. I mean, just look at that. We adjusted all of it with the spacing and all of that type of things. If we had to insert something, for example, we're using the chain fence here, for example, you can see clearly it is facing the wrong direction. But when we adjust the orientation as well as the spacing on the right hand side, you can see it updates instantly. Normally we would get that blue circle in the center for loading and all of those type of things. This is very, very awesome. It makes life much more easier. You'll see here also, if we are to insert the light poles, we can decide which way we want to face it, as well as we could compare options, meaning which spacing works better, whether we want to alternate it or not. And again, you don't have to wait for it to load. I think the users that actually use Infraworks quite a bit really appreciate that feature. Let's go to the vegetation or landscape part of things. So we have the new function of creating certain plants or vegetation. The process is exactly the same, where we can define the area and adjust the density. And if you zoom in, you can see now it has created these type of individual components, and that looks actually quite nice, right? So again, you have the landscape part, which they've added a few more features for the landscape architecture, or for your awesome visual effects or your storyboard. You can actually incorporate that. But the feature that allows you to do the component stuff quite good for the decorations, definitely one of my favorites. All right, so that is for Infraworks, quick and simple. Let's look at Autodesk Civil 3D, which is the powerhouse in terms of the detailed design as well as the final and concept. You can do a lot of them in here. So for the users that are not aware or not that familiar with Civil 3D, it is a civil engineering design software that supports BIM, so building information modeling, and it can be used for drafting, design, and construction documentation. It's really amazing. It has a dynamic interface, meaning that if you make any changes to your model, for example, if you move the road alignment to the left, to the right, up or down, the quantities will update instantly. The long sections or profile views will do it as well, and so on and so forth. So you don't have to keep worrying that do I have to force update certain things. The software is very intelligent and keeps up to that. Of course, you can switch it to static. Many of the users that have come for my training know that I strongly don't recommend it. If you do that, please remember to go and switch it back to dynamic. Otherwise, your data does not update. And then, of course, some of the main uses for Civil 3D is roads, site design, so grading platforms, detention pond, those type of things, earthworks, pipe networks, as well as its amazing GIS functionality. So very powerful software. It also has AutoCAD that's built into it, as well as AutoCAD Map 3D. So that's where the GIS functionality comes into play. So from the forums, as well as the previous webinars and like what I've seen online, this is by far, hands down, the most impressive feature for 2022, which is the grading optimization for Civil 3D. So if you have done grading before, or again, if you've attended my training or you've done it at a ATC, we normally use the feature lines, which work perfectly. You grade your banking to a certain slope or grade, you could infill it and so on and so forth. But what if you have to do something that's quite complex? Yes, you can achieve it with feature lines, but it takes a bit of understanding to project your feature lines quite well. But the grading optimization for Civil 3D is another level, if I could be quite blunt. The images on the right hand side say it all. So if you remember your elevation mapping from Civil 3D in terms of elevations, this actually does that with an automated feature. it conducts grading design studies based on your project constraints, meaning that you could tell the software that from this polyline to the next, I want it to slope at this grade. I do not want it to violate this grade. Now, depending on what the software does in its optimization engine, it will actually tell you or monitor if the constraint violations occur in real time. So you might get red areas that will show you, no, that's actually violated or something like that. And then, of course, if you're happy with the surface, you can actually output it directly back into Civil 3D. So again, it's a fairly new feature. There would definitely be more webinars in the future, more detailed applications, so keep your eyes open for that. It is a part of the AEC collection to Civil 3D subscription users or Enterprise Business Agreement users. So if you haven't heard of it, and if you are a subscription user, please go and log into your Autodesk account. You would see under Civil 3D, or if you just search under your products, grading, optimization, it is there. I have it installed and it's good to go. So let's have a look at exactly how this works. So here we are, we've got a surface with a blue polyline. We've overlaid or we've created our roads with our parking lots and so on. And we have other lines depicting the grading. Now we can create a zone over here where we could select and tell the software that we want to zone this. We want a max slope of 5% and a minimum drain slope of 2%. And the software will actually grade it according to your parameters. Now, if you click on the optimize button, and if you go to the zone, just watch what happens here, okay? When you upgrade your grading objects, it pushes directly. If you see something like floaty on your screen or for the contours, I promise you're not tripping or anything like that. It is the optimization engine that's actually running iterations as we speak. So it's seamlessly interoperable. The data that you would get in your optimization editor pushes directly back to Civil 3D in terms of a surface. So again, we have all of those gradings for those parcels, and we've also got a pond on the top there. And as you can see here, we send it again through the iterations for the optimization. You can see the contours are moving. It's doing whatever it can in terms of the constraints that you have put in. Okay, and once we export it back, you can see the final result. This also applies when it comes to retaining walls and stuff like that. So I was speaking to a user this week, and she actually brought up the same thing in terms of how can you replicate the ground behind the retaining walls. So this is how we're going to do it. Okay, so we've got that area, we select it, and we optimize it based on the retaining wall. And if you look there, now it looks absolutely correct. So it's a very advanced tool, very futuristic. It's not as difficult as you think it might be. You just need to understand how you would normally do it with a feature line or apply your methodology to it, and the grading optimization will become your best friend when you're doing advanced site design. Okay, to all of the geometrics engineers, road engineers, people dealing with interchanges and stuff like that, you're going to really like this feature, especially for connected alignments. So we can actually now generate very complex intersections and interchanges much more efficiently, especially when it comes to the loop ramps, right? So if you're doing a clover leaf or something like that, you will actually see how amazing this is when you're doing those reverse curves, okay? So you can also quickly adjust the alignments with the dynamic control grips. I mean, that is kind of old news because those are built into Civil 3D when you're updating your alignments. Let's go have a look. So connected alignments for Civil 3D 2022. Now, this is what you would typically have with your alignments going in each direction. And of course, you have the bridge on the top. Pro tip here is always select the alignments in the direction they are moving. And once we do that, we can assign, of course, a design criteria, but we've got many more options here when it comes under groove or curved groove type. You can see as you click on each dimension, the infographic gives you the description or what you're talking about. So very simple to understand. And if I hit OK, you will see that it automatically places that curve there. right? Pretty cool, really, really nice. But what if we wanted to create the reverse curves? Again, we'll select the directions that we want to work in. And here again, we have much more options than previously, right? So for example, it doesn't have to be only a closed solid. You can decide whatever other method you want to use, select your correct profiles, and once you hit OK, this is the result. Now just look at that. How awesome is that? Especially if instead of plotting a polyline and then converting it, you could actually use this connected alignment feature. And if it's not exactly where you want it to be, by all means, as you can see on the screen, you can use the dynamic grips and position it accordingly. So this makes our life very much less complicated, if I could use that, when it comes to geometrics, especially for the alignment layout itself. Projects Explorer for Civil 3D, this was released some time back, probably last year sometime. If you're not familiar with it, the picture on the right-hand side says everything. So your infrastructure model in Civil 3D, whether it be your roads, your pipe networks, those type of things, Project Explorer allows you to manage this data in one single window. So you could check the cross sections of your road, you could toggle things, you can see you got the display on the top, as well as the metadata at the bottom, so that you can actually toggle like an Excel, or if you're familiar with Civil 3D, the panorama, more or less like that, right? So you can actually link from here and you can execute tasks also from here. Now this is very, very amazing. Reason being is that you can manage everything from one window. Sometimes you might have to have separate exports and stuff like that, but you could actually analyze and check your model from a project management from an explorer perspective in one window, irrespective if it's a road, if it's a pipeline, if it's your civils, everything can be checked in this one window. And now with the addition of pressure network support, it makes it that much better. Of course, it also supports all Civil 3D for local languages. And again, it's available for subscription users. So if you are a subscription user, please check out your Autodesk account, log in and download it from there. If you want any help, you can shout out to me. My details will be at the end of the webinar. Last but definitely not least is Autodesk ReCap Pro. So all of the scan to BIM fanatics like myself, especially infrastructure, drones, those type of things, you're going to really like what we have lined up here, right? For those that are not familiar with Autodesk ReCap Pro is used for the point cloud processing and registration. So you would bring in the point cloud, you would register it. If it's not pre-registered, you could do it via automatic registration or manual registration, and then create an RCP file or a structured scan, which can then be imported into your Civil 3Ds, your AutoCAD, your Revits, your Inventors. Okay, very, very powerful. It's used for as-built capture, and it's far much more automated than manual tape measure. You can also use it for photogrammetry. So if you've got a drone and you've got your camera set on there, you've got your geotag set, you've got your flight path programmed, you could actually fly around a certain area, take those pictures, bring it into the software, photo stitch it, and get a 3D model from that, which is mind-blowing. You could also do it with your phone and other stuff. So I've got users that actually use their phone, took a lot of pictures, make sure that the overlap was there was enough photos, and they could actually stitch models based on their phone camera footage, which is quite mind-blowing. Now, what is amazing for this year? This is the biggest one for scan to BIM, hands down. It's the scan to mesh feature. So the users that have been using ReCap for a year or so, or maybe prior to this webinar, you should know that previously the scan to mesh feature was removed, and now they have incorporated back, which is making a lot of people quite happy. What I mean by that is you could actually crop out an area in your point cloud and then convert it to a 3D mesh. you can decide on the type of resolution, whether it's low, whether it's medium or high, and you can push it directly to Autodesk Drive, Autodesk Docs, and BIM 360. So let's have a look at what I am talking about right now. So the scan to mesh feature, you will see right here is we've got a point cloud, and maybe there's a certain area that we want to create a mesh from. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to actually crop this area right here. And now that we have it, we can go to cloud, go to mesh, and we can click mesh creation. Again, you can decide on the quality, and we can then go and save it to Autodesk Docs. So another surprise is there is a direct integration to Autodesk Docs with ReCap. So if you're running out of space, I knew I had done that quite a bit. When it comes to point cloud data, it becomes quite heavy. You can push it to the cloud, which is unlimited storage, and your data can be done there. And then of course you can download it or load from there. So pretty cool, okay? And this is the result of the mesh, and you can use it in your models going further. Another thing is the publish and view. So you can view, annotate, as well as share real view images in the cloud, which is quite nice. Before we use the online browser that you would normally click a link and it will show you the photos and stuff like that. The cloud one I would feel is much more better. So let's have a look. It works on the same principle, to be quite honest. However, it's much more better if it's in a controlled environment, or i.e. a common data environment. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're going to publish this to the cloud, and from there we're going to take it to project files. We can drop it wherever we want to, and then we will give it a name. So typical procedure, you can actually decide whether you want to publish all of the scans or you want to filter out certain ones. It's totally up to you. And once you do publish it, you will see that on the top it'll tell you publishing, and will also notify you when it's done. And now if we go into Autodesk Docs, we can actually view this directly in the platform. Now look at that. We've got the photorealistic render on here, where you could actually take measurements and add probably notes and stuff like that as you would wish. So really cool integration right there. We were looking for something that incorporates ReCap into the cloud, and yeah, I think this is a step in the right direction from Autodesk. So very cool. You can even add attachments, as you see right there, and this is the result. I mean, if you click the real view, you can actually see the display is exactly the same in the cloud. So very good UI on that part as well. Then we come to the cloud storage part of things, where you can now sync with Autodesk Drive, Autodesk Docs, also BIM 360 Docs. Of course, the rebranding was BIM 360 Docs to Autodesk Docs, so that's why we've kept that there. So in a nutshell, we can actually push or save directly to there, rather than having to download it to our computers and then taking it from there and copying it onto an external hard drive or something like that. Especially if you're working with a lot of big data sets, going into the gigs, 400 gigs, 200 or whatever, we normally don't have a lot of onboard memory on our computers, unless you're quite lucky to have a terabyte or solid state, those type of things. But generally, I think the cloud is much more safer, and it's also uncapped, so it's a really better option to go for. And that's exactly what they did. They've integrated Autodesk Drive, BIM 360 Docs, Autodesk Docs directly with ReCap Photo. So not the point cloud application, but rather Photo. Let's have a look. So again, there's this distinction between ReCap Photo and ReCap point cloud interface. The one you're looking at right now is ReCap Photo. So the users that have been using drones and stuff like that, you should know, like a DJIs and stuff, right? So you can see we can actually send it directly to the drive, as you're seeing here on the screen, or we can actually send it to another location. So maybe we wanted to go to BIM 360. You can see all of the projects will be listed here. You would navigate as per usual, and you will drop it where needed, right? So again, quite typical to say the least, and it will sync accordingly. Okay. Also in the Autodesk Construction Cloud, you will see now if we log in, you will see all of that data is prevalent in that environment. So again, it's purely for recap photo at this stage. And that is it, right? So just in closing, and some key takeaways on how we can help you. Let's wrap this up quite quickly, and then I could probably take your questions and let you get on with your day. So my key takeaways is those 3 points right there. I don't know what else to tell you because, again, it is a what's new webinar. There's not much I can change on this part, but they have added some really cool features in civil infrastructure. Okay, I mean, it'll help you to make better design decisions, especially when you're using like that grading optimization tool. You've got the frequency or the processing where the decorations update instantly rather than having to regenerate, and of course reduce cost, because now all of the data is housed, or it's going to that direction where it will be all synced to Autodesk Docs soon. That's what I'm seeing, in my opinion, and that promotes a common data environment. Also with the ISO standards 19650, those type of things, it's going to bring a much more collaborative approach. And with us still working from home as well as mixing or going to the office every now and then, that is still the safety net that we would need to apply. So definitely really cool. Civil 3D, I mean, always great with the powerhouse, the detailed design of infrastructure. Really cool connected alignments workflow there. And of course, Infraworks for the landscape architects as well. You've got some really, really pretty tools there that you can actually play with, right? So again, that is my key takeaways for today. In terms of how we can actually help you, so we always show all of these webinars how to and stuff like that. Sometimes people still find it above their depth, and we as Baker Bains, we believe that we solve our customers' problems through digital transformation, helping them to design and make a better world. And I can assure you, each and every one of us that work here live and breathe that, and that's what makes us, our team, a really, really amazing team when we pull together. We bring this together using our I-adopt methodology. In a nutshell, we assess you, we educate you, and we consult with you if it goes above your understanding, and together we facilitate positive change management in your organization, in your processes, helping you to adopt and enforce digital transformation. You must be hearing this word a lot, especially from prior to last year, actually. It is the implementation framework by a lot of companies, organizations, especially towards Vision 2030 and smart cities, those type of things. I mean, it forms the crux of it. So definitely something you need to aim towards as a company, as a consulting firm, as an organization, as well as an individual professional. Very, very key, and this is all governed by our purpose as individuals and designers. How you can reach us as Baker Bains. So we are very active on social media, so LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, as well as YouTube. You can hit us up. You can just type in Baker Bains and you'll definitely find us there. Really, really important thing is that all of our webinars, our events that are hosted online are uploaded to our Baker Bains YouTube channel. So if you are on YouTube, please hit subscribe and like so that you can get the notifications as to when the recordings are up. I also post them on LinkedIn, but I'll get to that just now. And to all of our customers, we have a really amazing support desk that's available for free. That's open from Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 11:30 at night, which is really, really comprehensive, especially if you're stuck working those extra hours, which I've been many times, unfortunately, in the design or consulting firm. You do need some help, and our support is the only one in South Africa that's open that long. So yeah, we're based in Johannesburg as well as Cape Town. So those are the two beautiful pictures you see right there. And of course, if you would like to reach out to me directly, I have a lot of feedback from you guys on LinkedIn, so I really appreciate that. And it's also quite cool to see and hear the stuff that you guys are doing. There's some really cool things going on currently. So keep it up, keep the energy up. If you want to find me on LinkedIn, you simply just type in my name, I will pop up, or you can find me on the Baker Benz company page on LinkedIn. We are there. If you want to drop me a message or you have any recommendations for a webinar, or maybe something is grappling you or you're struggling a bit, hit me up on my email or even LinkedIn. I'm very active on there and we can discuss it, and maybe it could be a webinar in the future. Okay, so let us know what's going on in industry. If you have any kind words, always appreciate it as well. And if you have any suggestions, please fire them away. If you're looking more product specific, primary focus, the products that are my core specialization as a civil infrastructure specialist: Infraworks, Civil 3D, ReCap, vehicle tracking, AutoCAD, and the construction cloud. Secondary, I pull this into my workflow every now and then. I'm not a specialist or that good as compared to the above products, but I can find my way and definitely get you up there. And if I can't, I've got an awesome team of technical specialists that do specialize in majority of these products as well. So we've got you covered. Other focuses, like you can see on the top here, anything civil infrastructure design and scan to BIM, I am your guy, hit me up. IDAS, definitely civil engineers must on your tick list. If you use Civil 3D, go and check this out if you're not sure what it is. IDAS, it stands for Infrastructure Design Automation Suite. It makes Civil 3D an absolute amazing tool in the BIM application space for civil infrastructure design. So please check that out. I mean, I've already touched on ClearEdge, Leica, TopCon. Those are the scan to BIM technologies right there. ArcGIS, which was my previous webinar, again, I've received amazing feedback for that, and it's still making waves on social media. So thank you, everyone. I'm glad it resonated. And of course, CAD learning is the backbone of any designer as a backup. I mean, if you're learning on the go or anything like that, you need to upskill on the hurry, or you want to just better yourself as a professional at your own pace, own time. CAD learning, please check it out. It's also on our website, or you can hit me up and we can take it from there. How I can help you: consulting, definitely. We do a lot of consulting with a lot of big companies and clients throughout South Africa, as well as Africa in certain cases. Software training, whether it's in Civil 3D or the tools that we normally display to you on our webinars, or if you need customized training, something specific to a project, or you want to do a pilot project, those type of things, talk to us. We've done many implementations and pilot projects throughout, again, South Africa and Africa, so we can definitely help you with that. Scan to BIM, I mean, you guys know me by now for that. Process analysis when it comes to your workflows and business processes, how to streamline it, how to help you get onto a common data environment, those type of stuff. Demonstrations, if you need to see a demo on the software on a specific aspect, we are more than willing, as well as if you are hosting any webinars or actually any events that you would like us to present or participate in, we're also keen for that. Webinars, and of course, having a chat. I would say grabbing a coffee, but most people are still kind of keeping to themselves, which is right. But if you're ever around Gauteng, Sunny Hill, Sandton, whatever, and you want to grab a chat over coffee or something civil infrastructure, you're more than welcome, as well as on LinkedIn and email. So I will take questions for the users that have joined in a bit later. I did suggest that I had applied to AU this year again, and I really want you guys to vote for me. It was a real privilege to represent Africa last year, being the only professional selected from the entire African continent. So I would really like to have the privilege again to represent South Africa and Africa abroad. So how this works is you would just click those links I have put into the chat box. Those are the sessions, and all you got to do is hit the like button, and that is it. You voted for me. If it asks you to sign in, you would need to sign in with your Autodesk ID, your Autodesk account that you would use to sign into your software. Or if you don't have one, you could create one. It's free. It's like creating a sign-in for how you would do it for Gmail, exactly the same thing. So I've got one for the road users, and I've got one for the plant and process plant users. So we really appreciate your votes and confidence there, and hopefully we can represent Africa on the global stage again. So I'm going to just toggle through the chat box to see if there's any questions. I'll give you guys a few seconds if you have any comments or anything like that that you would need to add, or if you have any questions that has popped up to you right now. Please jot them into the chat box. I will give you guys a few seconds. Okay, I was definitely expecting this question, especially for ReCap. Where is point clouds supported on the Autodesk platform? No, not yet. That's where we are hoping that the next release would go. Point cloud is quite tricky. First of all, it's heavy on your computer, right? I mean, and that is locally. Can you imagine on the cloud in terms of how you would support those millions of pixels? So it is quite tricky, and I think the development team, again, I speak on behalf of myself, not of what's actually going on, but looking at the direction that this has went to for 2022, where they've incorporated the photo element into the cloud platforms, we could see maybe the point cloud support also coming in or factoring in, or they're probably working into it somehow. So definitely keep your eyes peeled, and you would probably see me one of the first people to actually make a big noise about it if it does come out on LinkedIn or something like that. So I agree with you. It will definitely be an amazing feature to have, especially for stakeholders. But yeah, you could still use the browser that's online. So it's not really a train smash as long as they've got the photorealistic view of it. So, I mean, if you're reviewing it, you can only kind of measure, or it's better to measure when it's in the real view state. So again, good question, and like I said, I was expecting that one. Okay, there's another one here. What is the difference? Can you explain what is a decoration? I am confused. Okay, so in Infraworks, you've got different aspects. Now, people always get confused about this, especially when you come for training the first time in class, when I'm giving class. There's a difference between a component and a decoration. Component is normally assigned to a road, okay, where you can add certain features that come through to Civil 3D. When it is a decoration, it does not come through. Depending on the formatting as well, or the complexity of the cross section, sometimes the component does not come in as expected to Civil 3D. So I always tell the users to please, when you do collaboration from Infraworks to Civil 3D, please go and check your cross section, how it looks, or your assembly in Civil 3D. If it does not look correct, please go and adjust it or edit it or even recreate it so that you get the correct data or targeting when it comes to Civil 3D. So thank you for that question. Again, we do get that a lot, and I'm sure a lot of people probably benefited from that right now. So decorations are the things that you would normally model 3D in Infraworks itself for purely visualization, and that is it. Okay, if you wanted to take those things into an assembly, you would probably need to create it using the standard assembly tools in Civil 3D, or use the sub-assembly composer, which there's a split on. Some people find it very difficult, some people kind of get it and it works for them. I'm not saying which way I sway, but it's really, really powerful. I think you just need to wrap your head around the sub-assembly composer and you can do a lot of amazing stuff. It's a good question. Okay, there's another one here. Why do you advocate using Inventor rather than Revit when Inventor is not in the AC collection? Again, another one, we've answered this quite a lot, especially during my bridge webinars. I think actually one of my colleagues, even at my company, Nuran, actually asked me this, why can't we use Revit instead of Inventor? And look, this is the workflow that has been proposed by Autodesk. I mean, it is developed in this manner where you would need to use Inventor. And I definitely see the value for it. Yes, if you are involved with a lot of bridges, it is definitely wise to at least get one Inventor license so that you could actually model the bridges in a much more streamlined manner, because it allows you to create custom parametric parts and bring them directly into Infraworks, which then can be linked to the detailed final bridge structure in Revit. Should there be any updates, it will synchronize, or it will prompt you to synchronize it. Same with Civil 3D. I'm actually giving away a lot of my next webinar here, but if you're confused on that part and you see why I am for it, please join my next webinar. You will see that I will post it on LinkedIn quite soon once we finalize the date, and we can take it from there. I do understand your grievance in terms of the inventor part. I do also feel that part of things, that I wish it was part of the AC collection, but that's not in my hands. Again, you can do the modeling in Revit. It becomes very, very tricky though, because then you need to take the alignment or final road corridor level into Revit. Once you got it into Revit, you then need to ensure that your bridge is snapped accordingly, or it's what's swept along that path. I think that's the word you use. I could be using the wrong Revit word because I'm a civil, but and then you can model from that coming downwards. So you could do the deck, then you could do the buttons, all of those type of things, columns, and then you can go to the foundations or the piers. But the only downfall with that is if there's any changes, you have to do it absolutely manually. That's not a good idea. It can be done, but it's not a good thing. Also, your positioning needs to be right, your geolocation needs to be right, your shared reference point. You also need to coordinate quite well with Infraworks, so that if you want to create a visual model, it lines up perfectly, it sits up to date, and everything is up to date. So you can see already there's a lot of manual process in there. Of course, if you manage it quite well, you can pull it off, but it's quite the longer route. So I think I've said enough there. Join me for my next webinar and you will get all of your answers. I think that is it, guys. Let me just take one more scroll quickly. Yeah, I didn't miss anything. Thank you very much for joining me for this webinar. I look forward to seeing you for the next civil infrastructure webinar, as well as hoping to see you for AU, right? When the final date has been confirmed, there's a ton of sessions that you can join, not only mine, different industries. It's free learning and it's a really good culture to keep up. And with that said, I would say thank you. Have an awesome Friday, have an awesome weekend ahead, and catch you for the next one.